The team finals of the 2011 World Championships began with the legacy matchup of Fujimoto Tomoya of Japan versus Andreas Nordahl of Norway. Tomoya, by virtue of Japan's first-place finish, chose to play first. Neither player mulliganed, and the match got underway. Tomoya's first-turn volcanic island was immediately targeted by a wasteland from Nordahl, but not before Tomoya got a chance to use it to brainstorm. Tomoya got to fetch a basic island from his deck on the following turn, helping him to ponder his way into City of Traders. He held both Show and Tell and Emrakul the Aeon's Torn in his hand, so next turn would be a big one for him. Nordahl knew all about the explosiveness Tomoya's deck was capable of. Still, he had no third turn play other than a Noble Hierarch, allowing his Dryad Arbor to attack for 2. On his turn, Tomoya went for it, using City of Traders to fuel a Show and Tell. He revealed a Progenitus to match Nordahl's Knight of the Reliquary. One of these things is a little bigger than the other. Nordahl stoically untapped and added a Mother of Runes to his board, before letting Mr. Protection from Everything do his stuff. One swing put Nordahl to 9 life. Tomoya thought for a moment about his play, before adding a Jace the Mind Sculptor to his team. He used it to return the Knight of the Reliquary, which promptly got Nordahl to scoop up his cards. Tomoya is up 1 game to Nordahl's 0. We now go to Game 2 of the modern matchup, featuring Makihito Mihara with Splinter Twin Combo, who is up 1 game, and Svinak Bjornerud featuring Punishing Fire Zoo. Bjornerud begins with a Noble Hierarch off a basic forest. Mihara responds with a Sleight of Hand. Bjornerud quickly uses a fetch land for a Sacred Foundry, then plays a Knight of the Reliquary, a creature that can quickly put a clock on the game, particularly with an Exalted trigger helping out. Mihara's response wasn't quite as impressive, playing a lowly Spellskite to the opposing array of creatures. The artifact creature was there to protect the combo, but seemed ill-equipped to stop the onslaught. It would never see that onslaught, however, as Ancient Grudge made quick work of the 0-4. Bjornerud batches in with a Noble Hierarch for a single point of damage. He then uses Knight of the Reliquary's activated ability to find a fetch land to get more lands in the graveyard to pump up the multicolored rare. Bjornerud happily resolves a Kasali Pridemage, which with the double Exalted trigger makes Knight of the Reliquary attack in for a whopping 7 damage. Mihara tries to get back into the game with another Spellskite, but it doesn't last long, as Bjornerud quickly flashes back the Ancient Grudge to remove the artifact creature. In the single digits with no Pestermites or Deceiver Exarchs available, Bjornerud attacks and Mihara scoops him up. The match is now tied 1 game apiece. Heading over to the standard table, we join them for Game 2, as Japan's Ryuichiro Ishida is up 1 game with Wolf Run Ramp, facing Christopher Jonassen's green-white tokens from Norway. Unfortunately, things were not looking better in Game 2 for Christopher, as his mulligan to 4 was not ideal. Ishida kept his 7 and got things started off with a rampant growth. Even beginning with just 4 cards, Jonassen still featured Hero of Bladehold using his 4th land drop, an impressive feat. Ishida was not to be outdone, however, as the powerful Planeswalker Gideon Jura entered the battlefield, forcing all of Christopher's creatures to attack it next turn. Hero of Bladehold took Gideon Jura down to just 1 loyalty counter, but that wasn't enough. Ishida then dropped a devastating Day of Judgment on the battlefield, which destroyed Christopher's creatures, then activated his Planeswalker into 6/6 mode, working his way around Ishida's own mass removal. In an attempt to regroup, Christopher dropped a Mirran Crusader, hoping the Double Striker would be enough. It wouldn't. Ishida quickly tapped 7 mana and dropped Elish Norn Grand Cenobite, an incredibly powerful mythic that prompted a quick concession from Jonassen. The Japanese are now up 1 match. In what would be our deciding match, an epic game was to unfurl for the modern showdown between Makihito Mihara and Svinak Bjornerud. Mihara started on a Sleight of Hand, while Bjornerud opened with a Wild Nacatl, into a Noble Hierarch, and attack. Then, on turn 3, Mihara had a choice. He could hold up 3 mana and attempt a combo on the next turn, since he was holding a 4th land, Deceiver Exarch, and Splinter Twin. Or he could blow up Bjornerud's board with engineered explosives and slow himself down, but play around any number of hate cards. Mahara opted to play it safe and destroyed both of Bjornerud's 1-drops. The move proved prophetic, as Bjornerud had a third land and Kasali Pride Mage. He wouldn't have been able to combo around the Pride Mage and 2 untapped mana sources, including the Hierarch, the next turn. Instead, the pair settled into a match only a Math Major could love. Both players had Punishing Fire and Grove of the Burn Willows. Mahara had 2 Grove of the Burn Willows, but only 1 Punishing Fire, while Bjornerud had 2 Punishing Fires, but only 1 Grove of the Burn Willows. Bjornerud sacrificed a Knight of the Reliquary to the Fire's Grove combo, but began to make headway on Mahara's life total soon after. And since the Japanese player was at 9 life to start with, Bjornerud had a bit of a head start. But there's a reason Mahara has always been able to stay at the top of the international scene for so long. He used a Relic of Progenitus to permanently exile one of Bjornerud's Punishing Fires, and started to pull ahead, only to fall behind again when his opponent plucked a second Grove of the Burn Willows from the top of his deck. Now with a mess of mana in play, and sensing that he couldn't simply win the Fire's race, Mahara played out Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker to attack in order to draw out 2 points of Punishing Fire damage, which also conveniently gained him a life. Meanwhile, Mahara was slowly chipping away at Bjornerud's life with his own Punishing Fire, and the life totals stood at 9-5 in the Norse player's favor. Mahara drew his second Relic of Progenitus, which would have protected him if Bjornerud hadn't drawn Ancient Grudge to keep his Grove/Fire engine going. Another Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker was a Lightning Rod for Punishing Fire, but Bjornerud found his third Grove of the Burn Willows to kick his machine gun into overdrive. Mahara played Deceiver Exarch, either hoping to draw 2 fires or to add another point of damage to his clock, but Bjornerud sent it on a path to exile, which Mahara greeted with a knowing smile. The two continued to trade tiny Punishing Fire jabs until Mahara drew his second Spellskite and played out both. Ancient Grudge killed one, but the other one was able to keep Mahara alive, barely at 3 life for at least 1 turn. Any more, and he'd likely lose. But he had managed to take Bjornerud down to 4 in the meantime, and that meant 1 turn was all he needed. Redirecting 2 points of damage to his Spellskite kept him alive for a crucial turn, and on his turn, he untapped and regrew Punishing Fires for 2 pings before sending the final 2 points of damage at Bjornerud. Makihito Mihara wins the match 2 games to 1, and Japan is your team world champion.